On this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.
You know, he's a true competitor. He's one of the top quarterbacks in this league. He's been that way for a long time. He's got everything you want out of a quarterback.
Those connections are going to happen as long as they can find a way to get Slayton one-on-one.
This defense has to stay aggressive.
I've been watching since I've been growing up, always knowing about him. This is going to be a game I get to face him.
That's New Year's Eve. Break out the poppers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Send it.
I've got to
Send
celebrate.
it.
And we welcome you to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. It's the Giants and Rams at MetLife Stadium on New Year's Eve. As always, I'm joined by two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks and the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. And Coach, on Christmas Day down in Philadelphia, you guys battled the Eagles right until the very end. What's your overall takeaway from the football game as you look at your team and the way they performed?
Yeah, competed for 60 minutes. I thought missed a few opportunities that could have changed the game. Probably in our favor, but give Philly credit. They did a good job, but our guys competed, you know, for the full 60 minutes right down to the end. Came back after being down at halftime. Was proud of the way that they competed. Ultimately, not happy with the result.
Coach, you know, a loss is a loss, but you have another game, and there's something that you've got to continue to coach. And I saw something that you talk about competing. This team gave up 1 sack. And it's against a pretty good front, and that's down 6 sacks from the week before. So that's what you talk about when you speak of competing.
Sure, yeah. You know, the negative plays were down from the previous few games we've played them, kind of sandwiched in there between the Saints game and the other two, with doing a good job of not giving up sacks. But you know, there were certain things. I thought, you know, Isaiah Simmons was really physical in the kicking game. Was a huge play there at the start of the second half. You know, there's a lot of things to build off of. Again, 60 minutes, competed, just ultimately missed out on a few opportunities that could have helped.
All right, you're playing a team this week that's fighting for their playoff lives. So you got the Rams coming into town, and when you take a look at them defensively, you take a look at Aaron Donald and the disruptiveness that he causes in the middle. How do you deal with a guy like that?
Yeah, it's hard. You know, he's an interior player, usually at 3 technique. But he's a problem player, so you know you have to do a good job of trying to get your protection set to him. But it's not always easy as that interior defensive lineman, you know. And he does some things that not many people can do on this planet. And he's been very successful for a long time. He's very, very difficult to block. Tremendous amount of respect. It's always a challenge when you get ready to go against this guy.
Coach, their offense is really efficient, and I guess the straw that stirs the drink is Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, kind of like Donald. I mean, this guy's been an unbelievable player for a long time since he's come out of Georgia, obviously with Detroit and with the Rams, Super Bowl winner. A great deal of respect for him. He has unbelievable arm talent. He can put the ball wherever he wants to put it. Great eye control, great feel for the game. He's a top quarterback in this league, and he's been playing very well. They've scored a lot of points. He's a major reason why.
Coach, his toughness too. I mean, he has taken some shots this year, and he doesn't seem to blink. Is that something that sometimes gets overlooked by the outside world? Yeah,
no question. You know, I remember a game back in, I think it was 2008, when I was at the Browns. We were playing the Lions, and the last play, he just gets whacked pretty good. Goes out and comes back in to really win the game for him. You know, he's a true competitor. He's one of the top quarterbacks in this league. He's been that way for a long time. You know, again, toughness, intelligence, accuracy, arm strength. He's got everything you want out of a quarterback. That's why he's been really good.
Since Kieran Williams has come back, they've gotten a nice flow offensively with the running game, and then Nakua as a rookie has done a great job. And with Cooper Kupp being healthy and Higbee at the tight end spot, they're really balanced on all 3 levels, aren't they?
Yeah, they do a good job. Sean is a heck of a coach. You know, just hired Ryan Wendell as offensive line coach, who was with me for a while, and he's a tremendous coach. Nick Caley at the tight end position. He's got a lot of good coaches on that staff and does a good job with the players. And the players are, you know, instinctive, smart, tough, good football players. You know, obviously led by Matthew, but he does a great job of distributing the ball. The line's doing a good job in the run game. Williams is a good runner, downhill runner. He's one of the most productive backs in terms of 100 yards games in the league. I know they're clicking on all cylinders.
Coach, we appreciate the time. Happy New Year to you and your family. Best of luck against the Rams this week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Coach.
That's the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll, joining us here on the program. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll look at the Giants game in Philadelphia on Christmas and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. It's the Giants and Rams at MetLife Stadium. Let's take a look back at the recap of the Giants' Christmas Day showdown in Philadelphia. Philadelphia leads the Giants 20-3 at the half.
They've got to get something going and get points on the board beyond a field goal.
Crosby with an end-over-end kick that will not reach the end zone. Scott fields it at the 1, cuts to his left, runs into his own man, fumbles the football. The Giants recovered at the 15-yard line. So there's the gift that they needed. Boston Scott just ran into his teammate, and the ball popped out, and Isaiah Simmons recovered it for the Giants. Tyrod Taylor is in at quarterback for the Giants. Taylor to start the third. Taylor out of the gun, handoff Barkley. Up the middle he goes, into the end zone, untouched for the touchdown. Saquon Barkley.
How about everybody on the offensive line, those 4 plays, everybody got their block.
3rd and 1 from the Philadelphia 34. Now Hurts is in a shotgun set instead. Hands it off for Swift. Bottled up in the backfield. He's going to be dropped back at the 30-yard line for a loss on the play. Azeez Ojulari makes the tackle. How did Philadelphia not go for the Philly push?
It's like you don't want to have nice things. I mean, you are automatic with that. You're getting too cute by half, which tells me that they're getting super impatient.
1st and 20 at the Giant 28. It Hurts back to throw, fires it over the middle, nearly intercepted through the hands of Bobby Okereke. Hurts in a shotgun set, takes the snap, back to throw, fires it out to the right, and it's intercepted. Picked off along the right sideline by Adoree Jackson. He's to the 30, he's to the 20, 15, 10, 5, to the goal line. Is he in?
Touchdown.
Touchdown Giants! Adoree Jackson with the pick 6. As he goes 80 yards for the score. He bobbled it, but then regathered it, and that's the play the Giants needed. Adoree Jackson with his first interception of the season, and it goes for a touchdown. The Giants going for 2. They hand it off for Barkley, pushing. No signal yet, and he's in for the 2. So Saquon Barkley pushes it in for 2, and the Giants now trail by 2, 20-18. 2nd and 5 from the Giant 30. Taylor back to throw. Looks left, deep ball down the left side. He's got Slayton who makes the catch at the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown Giants! Darius Slayton on a 70-yard touchdown catch.
That's just an excellent throw there. Great protection by the offensive line.
Career-long catch for Darius Slayton, 70 yards. So the Giants score quickly. 5:22 to go in the ball game. So it comes down to 4th and 8 at the Philadelphia 46 with 26 seconds to go. Taylor takes the snap, back to throw. Fastball to the left, completes it to the 26-yard line. Waller with the catch. 4 seconds to go. Giants down by 8. Eagles have 5 men in the end zone. Taylor back, escapes to his left, escapes to his right, pointing, firing into the end zone, and the pass is intercepted. Picked off in the end zone by Keely Ringo to end the ball game. The Giants are livid. They felt there was a hold in the end zone, but there was no flag on the play. We're just getting started on the program. When we come back head-to-head with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for this week's edition of Head to Head. Here's Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
All right, so let's go head to head for the Giants and the Rams this weekend. And up first, Sean, we've got the ever-dangerous Cooper Kupp against Cordell Flott. Now, Kupp missed the first 4 games of this season, remember, with that hamstring injury, but still putting up some pretty good numbers. He's hot lately. 4 100-yard games this year, including 2 of the past 3 weeks. And in 3 of the last 4 weeks, he has caught a touchdown pass. And oh, by the way, should we remind you that 2 years ago against the Giants, 9 catches, 130 yards, and 2 scores. Flott needs to be at his best.
Oh, he's a dynamic player. He understands defenses. He's a veteran, good at route running, good scheme. So, just all around dynamic player. I've been watching him since I've been growing up. Always known about him. This is going to be a game I get to face him.
As someone who's watched him before you even got to the NFL, does it kind of give you a little bit extra juice or butterflies knowing now you got to stop him?
Yeah, definitely. It's a challenge. I like to compete, so that's what I'm here for.
Well, Cordell Flott knows he's got a big challenge against Cooper Kupp. You mentioned how productive he's been in the last few games. 3 of those 4 touchdowns have come in those last 4 games. So all of a sudden the numbers are starting to crank up. He's got a sidekick now too, which kind of helps. Puka Nacua is taking the league by storm. And so everybody's focused on Cooper Kupp, and now Puka's got one-on-one coverage. So the tables might have turned. Now everybody's focusing on Puka. Now all of a sudden Cooper Kupp is going to get all kinds of one-on-one opportunities. Now for Cordell Flott, you mentioned the ever-dangerous Cooper Kupp. This guy is such a precise route runner. One of the challenges for any corner is he is so good getting in and out of his breaks. So you've got to anticipate where he's trying to go. But he's kind of like a basketball player. If you try to cut in front of him, he's going to backdoor you. So he kind of reads off of your body movement too. I think when you look at Cooper Kupp, out of the slot is where he does a lot of his damage. But they like to run a lot of the quick slants out of the slot. So he's very good at protecting the ball with his body. He's not scared to go over the middle and take those big hits. But I think the relationship with Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, it's always so evident when you get into the game, when you see the anticipation throws that Matthew Stafford makes with Cooper Kupp. Go back to the Baltimore game earlier this season. An unbelievable touchdown catch by Cooper Kupp, an even better throw by Matthew Stafford. And you could see on the play that Matthew Stafford throws the ball before Cooper Kupp even makes his break, and there's a defender, a blitzer coming at him. But he just knows and trusts that Cooper Kupp is going to be at a certain spot. So he throws the ball to a spot, trusting him. That's so tough to defend. So for Cordell Flott, sometimes that ball is out earlier than maybe it would be against any other team or any other receiver. Cooper Kupp has that ability. They also like to move him around a lot, Paul. So against Washington, they had him in pre-snap motion, and he kind of gets lost in the shuffle pre-snap because they're running a zone defense, and all of a sudden he runs a wheel route up the sideline, nobody's covering him. So Sean McVay does a good job moving Cooper Kupp around at times too, getting him in motion, getting him in the backfield, and then you can kind of get some mismatches and kind of confuse the defense. So for Cordell Flott, that's always got to be aware. If you've got him, you got to make sure you know that he's not going to get free because of some wrinkle pre-snap.
Yeah, and Stafford's always looking for him. Kupp's got 3 games this year with at least 8 catches in a weekend. And by the way, Flott has only given up 50 yards or more through the air in a game 3 times this year. So he's done a good job of preventing the big play. And the Giants certainly hope he can keep Kupp under control. All right, we go to our next matchup, Ahkello Witherspoon against Darius Slayton. Now, Witherspoon's one of those tall corners, 6'2". You don't see a whole ton of those in the league these days. 7th season, he's played with San Francisco and with Pittsburgh. 13 passes defensed, is tied for 8th in the NFL, and he's only given up 44% completions on targets thrown his way. Suffice it to say, that is a challenge for Slayton to make good on.
With bigger guys, you always got to be aware of their hands. They tend to be handsy. They want to jam you, so those type of things you got to be aware of and try not to get caught up in line and get into a wrestling match, those type of guys.
Darius Slayton coming off of another very productive game, a big explosive play for the Giants. And this matchup right here, Paul, as you kind of mentioned, look, Witherspoon, he's a challenge. Anytime you turn on the film, number 44 just kind of pops. His explosive ability, his recovery speed. This is a tough corner. And you mentioned the breakups. He's got 3 interceptions on the season. These 13 pass breakups leads the team in pass breakups. And it's because of his ability to read the routes and just really drive on it. And there you see the stat comparison right there. Obviously, Darius Slayton, 41 catches, 602 yards. Those 2 touchdowns, both big plays. One of them, obviously, the 6-9-yarder against Philly on Christmas night. And then he had a 40-yard touchdown against Washington where, again, he showed that speed. So that's something that I think the Giants have done a good job of using Slayton's speed, maybe on a little stutter-go move or just kind of getting him out in space and letting him run. You can get behind Witherspoon. There have been times where receivers have run right by him. but he does such a great job of locating the ball while it's in the air. He's got that great recovery speed, and then he gets his head around. A lot of times corners struggle as they're trying to run fast. They have their head down, they don't look back, and they can't keep that speed up. He does a great job of that. I mentioned the anticipation. He reads the routes and he reads what the quarterback is doing. He does a great job with his eyes of seeing the quarterback through the receiver. And you go back to the Philadelphia game, he did a great job reading. Jalen Hurts tried to hit A.J. Brown on a little back shoulder throw. He read it perfectly. He actually ran the route better than A.J. Brown, jumps in front of it for a big interception. So he's got great ball skills. You mentioned the long arms. You can see him in the picture right here. I mean, he looks like he could tie his shoes standing up right there.
Yeah.
They're so long. And that range right there is great at knocking the ball down and having the ability to recover if the guy gets behind you. So this will be a fun little matchup. I know the Giants with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Tyrod, he throws a great deep ball. So this is the opportunity for Darius Slayton. Part of the reason why Tyrod is the starter is because of that throw that he made against Philly with Darius. You get a guy open, you can't miss. You've got to make those throws. And I think Tyrod he has a good relationship, good chemistry. Those connections are going to happen as long as they can find a way to get Slayton one-on-one.
Yeah, Witherspoon has given him 4 touchdown passes this year, so he can be beaten. Slayton's 69-yard touchdown grab against Philly, that's the longest catch of his Giants career. And I'll give you another really cool number about Slayton. Since 2019, he's 5th among NFL players, averaging 15 yards a catch. People don't put him in that elite category, but he's getting it done. He's right up there.
I like it. He's earning the big play sleigh.
I love it.
We'll steal it.
That'll do it, Sean, for head-to-head this week. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, not only is Matthew Stafford extremely talented, but he's got Cooper Kupp. Then you throw in Puka Nacua, Kieran Williams at running back, and they got a really good tight end. So the Giant defense will be challenged in a lot of different areas.
They will, Bob, and this is, again, about assignment football. I think from a talent standpoint, the Giants will be okay matching up, but it's just a matter of the assignments.
Yeah, and Stafford is a veteran guy who won a Super Bowl, played all those years in Detroit. He's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. You know, you can't fall asleep on him because he'll make throws that'll whiz right by your ear hole, and next thing you know, a guy's running free.
Well, you know, he had the misfortune of playing in the same division as Aaron Rodgers, and his talent was never really recognized until he got to L.A.
Yeah, and won a Super Bowl title with him. Much more to come in the program when we come back on the show. It's Over Under with Madeline Burke, Sean O'Hara, and Paul Dottino here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for Over Under. Here's Madeline Burke with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
Thanks so much. Time for a Week 17 Over Under, brought to you by the New York Lottery. Madeline Burke, Sean O'Hara, and Paul Dottino in this week for the game. You guys know the rules. I'll throw out a number, and we'll say if we think we'll go over or under when the Giants host the Rams Sunday at MetLife Stadium. Sean, I'm going to start with you here. Over or under 1.5 defensive scores in this game from both teams?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't know how you have a half a score, but I like the Giants defense right now. I like what they're doing, and I think that they're doing a great job creating turnovers. I'm going to take the under on this one just because I think when you look at the fact that the Giants would have to score 2 defensive touchdowns, the Rams are not scoring a defensive touchdown. All right, we're not putting that energy out there in the atmosphere. But I do think Deonte Banks, I think he's due, Paul. I think he's due for an interception. Give us a score. I'm doubling down on Deonte Banks, even though I'm going under.
You know, the Giants have 3 interception returns for touchdowns this year. Jackson, Simmons, and Pinnock.
Yeah.
The Rams don't have any. Now, both of these teams are in the bottom 10 of the NFL in terms of giving up the fewest amount of giveaways. So I don't think we're going to see very many turnovers in this one, which means this number is going to have to be under for me.
Yeah, I think we're going unders across the board. I'm in agreement with both of you guys. I think we'll see over 1.5 takeaways, but
like
defensive touchdowns, that's a whole different
Lots
story.
of offensive touchdowns for us, too.
Offensive touchdowns, we'll see those.
Take the over on that.
Let's hope for that. All right, Paul, I'm going with you here on this one. Over under 4.5 plays of 25 or more yards between both teams.
All right, so I started when I looked at this, I said, let's start with the passing game first. And between these two teams, they have 53 such plays. Now that's through 30 games combined. Then I said, all right, let's look at the run games. And what do we think about the big plays in the run game of 25 yards or more? And I said that's probably not going to happen a whole hell of a lot. So for me, I'm also going to go under on question number 2 as well.
All right, I'm not going to use as much math on this one. I'm going to say over just because I think Matthew Stafford, he's always got that big play ability. And with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they're going to get some of those big explosive plays. So they're going to get a couple. I also think with Tyrod taking over at the helm now, they're going to challenge the ball down the field a little bit more. I think Jalen Hyatt's going to have a couple big catches. He's had a disappearing act for us, and we've got to get him more involved in the offense. And then, of course, big play Slayton. He's showing up again. So I think that he's going to have a couple of explosive plays. Can't forget about 2-6, right? He's running like a man on a mission, so I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to agree with you and take the over as well. I like the math and research you had on this one, Paul, but it's week 17. The Giants are in here to play spoiler. They're going to be playing free, airing it out. Tyrod Taylor's not afraid to send it downfield. Plus, like you mentioned, Matthew Stafford's got those great weapons as well. I'm going to say over on the big plays.
Yeah, it's New Year's Eve. Bring out the poppers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Send it. All right, finally, over under Sean, 100 all-purpose yards from Saquon Barkley.
I'm taking the over on this one as well. Saquon had 23 carries against Philly, and I think when you look at his impact on the offense, no doubt about it, he's going to touch the rock even more than that in this game. I think so. Not only just running the football, I think with Saquon, we can get him out in space. We can find a way to continue with the screen game. I like the over for Saquon. I feel like we're lobbying every single week for Saquon to get more touches, more yards. But he is definitely our workhorse, so I'll take the over.
I would love it to be over, Sean, but I'm going to go under again. This is a clean sweep for me, folks. Look, Barkley's done that 5 times so far this season, but only twice in the last 6 weeks. Now, I need to remind you, the Rams have a pretty good rush defense, so he's probably not going to get close to that number in the run game because they've only given up just about 105 yards a game on the ground, and the only 100-yard rusher that they've allowed this year was McCaffrey. So unless Barkley does it in the pass game, and you're talking about throwing the ball downfield, that's about the only way it's going to happen. I have to go under.
Oh, you know, this was a tough one for me because, like you said, the Saquon's been getting the ball quite a bit, especially in recent weeks, but he hasn't hit that 100-yard mark a lot. So I think I'm going to take the under as well, just slightly. I think they're going to be giving Saquon the ball. They're going to be feeding him, but 100 is a lot, especially with the weapons that this Giants team has. They're going to be spreading it out a little bit. So I'm going to take the under on 100 all-purpose yards for Saquon Barkley. All right, that's a wrap. We'll see how it all plays out Sunday at MetLife Stadium when the Giants host the Rams. That's it for Week 17 Over-Under, brought to you by the New York Lottery. Let's send it back for Bob.
Carl, last week the Giants got their 3rd pick 6 of the season. Isaiah Simmons almost had another one in the football game. But defensively, the Giants need to continue to be disruptive. That gives them a chance to help out the offense.
Yeah, and Bob, that is what the epitome of complementary football, knowing that if you can create turnovers or extra possessions for your offense, it's going to make a difference.
And then the Saquon Barkley factor, Carl. The Giants were able to get him going a little bit. His yards per carry last week weren't great, but it helped the Giants stay on schedule a little bit.
Yeah, it's called the dirty two, as Coach Daboll would say. Just getting something on 1st or 2nd down so that you can stay in manageable situations.
When we come back in the program, Carl goes to the coach's tape with strategy here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. 1984 marked the first time Big Blue would make the playoffs under head coach Bill Parcells. In the NFC wildcard game, the Giants traveled to Los Angeles to face the league's most prolific running back, Eric Dickerson, and a Rams team that had already beaten the Giants convincingly earlier in the season.
I think in 1984, we joined forces and aligned ourselves together.
That was the game where we crossed over on this West Coast offense, being able to stop it.
Something really profound and going from a team that was 3-12-1 to a playoff caliber team. And we beat a good team in LA in the Rams, and we became a team that believed at that time
that was the game where we had things in place that showed us, hey, we are headed the right way.
In 1984, that road win against the Rams was huge for the New York Giants and would lay the foundation for the Giants going on to win Super Bowls 21 and 25. As we welcome you back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Carl Banks was a rookie on that 84 Giants team, and he's ready to dial in strategy. And Carl, those are some fond memories for you.
Fond memories for me. It was my breakout game too, so it was first time I got real playing time was in LA.
There you go. And the Giants were victorious in that football game. Now, strategy, you had to shut down a running game that the Rams had back then. The Giants are going to have to shut down Kyren Williams. He's in his second year out of Notre Dame, and when he came back from injury, this offense took off.
Yeah, it took off, Bob, but here's what you have to do. If you're linebackers and there's one back in the backfield, you key that one back. That's what you do. This triangle here has to defeat these guys. Let's take a look at this linebacker here. It's one back. There's one guy that's going to get the ball if it's a run, and you take a look. He goes inside just to come back outside with the back, and he's essentially blocking himself. So now he's got to get off a block. He's got to get off a block. There's a chance to make this tackle right here. You got to get the guy to the ground. You've got to get off the block. But if you play fast against a one-back set, you'll get to the point of attack sooner.
We're going to take a look at Kyren Williams again in action. And again, he was outstanding early in the season. He got hurt. When he came back, it really helped this offense flow. And we're going to see another example of it right here from the pistol.
Yeah, again, you just take a look at your linebackers, and it tells you everything you need to know. Just key the back, right? I don't know what they're telling this young man here, but it's a lot of unnecessary motion. Now, he puts himself in a position, either he can run this gap or he's going to get out leveraged here. But you got to play fast and you got to be decisive. So, again, Bob, I'm not criticizing another team's player, but if you're going to play the run game, he slides in and then slides further in, allowing himself to get blocked. It's not that hard when you play your keys. One guy can get the ball. That's it. Here's the guy with the ball. Go to your responsibility, and you make a play. You don't. Now you've been sealed off. You've been sealed off. You've been sealed off. You're blocked. So there's a two-way go for the back. I say this to say that you've got to be assignment conscious when you play the Rams because they are fundamentally sound. And if you don't play your fundamentals and your assignments, those things will happen. And a routine play becomes a big play, 4, 5, 6 yards, and you have to tackle as well.
Once they get that running game, then it really opens things up for Matthew Stafford. And we know about Cooper Kupp and the kind of career he's had, but then add Puka Nacua to the mix, the rookie, who has been absolutely spectacular.
He has been absolutely spectacular, and this is some of the things that Sean McVay does with his receivers. He gives you a bunch, but he'll give you the little subtle movements in the bunch here. Now, this guy is now the inside guy. This is the second guy who could end up running across the field. So you have to be able to communicate defensively. And there it is. The inside guy runs across. There's no one to guard him.
Yeah, and that's a matchup problem because you got Cooper Kupp and Nacua running the same route.
Correct. And you've got a bunch formation. You've got basically two guys to cover these three because the linebacker is looking inside and he's not even out. Safety's too far back, and this safety's too far back. And this is the number one defense in football, too. So by design, they do things to out-leverage your defense. So now your linebacker here comes and he wants to cut this off, but you got all of this field open. Your safety's moving here. You got two guys here with no work to do. So communication is very, very important. And there you go. It's just a simple route, but it's well designed to out-leverage your defense.
We're going to take a look at one more play for Puka Nacua, who really can threaten you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, you saw him run a deep crossing route here. Here it is again. They just run a bunch of guys at your defenders. If I freeze it here, you've got 3 defenders covering 2 guys, creates a one-on-one situation for Nacua. He catches it, moves the chains, big physical kid, breaks a tackle, gets more yards after catch.
Yeah, and Stafford is so accurate, and he puts it right on point that it makes things catch and run and then shedding tacklers. Sure. Now we're going to go to the other side of the ball where a future Hall of Famer plays for the Rams, and his name is Aaron Donald, and he is extremely disruptive.
Yeah, disruptive, but what makes him disruptive is he's fast. He's quick off the ball, he's strong, good hands. He's a Hall of Famer, but just take a look here. Before these 2 guys here can get out of their stance, he's already split between the 2 of them. Ball is snapped, he's threw him to the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
That's
stuff.
pretty impressive. You got the center who hiked the ball. He goes from here to here, splits these 2 guys before the quarterback really takes a drop. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Like, so you've got to be, number one, you got to be very, very conscious of where he lines up, and you've got to communicate what your assignments are. Here he is again at the bottom of the screen. Now, this is something that the Giants have seen a lot of. It's going to be some type of stunt here. But you've got to communicate it, and you got to get him stopped, because we run this here. He just comes around on a little twist, pushes the center, and makes the sack.
Yeah, I mean, that's Joe Bitonio, who's one of the better offensive linemen in the NFL. Yeah. And he just walked him right back to him. All right, that's a look at strategy for the Giants and Rams with Carl Banks each and every week here on the program. We'll guide you through that when we come back. Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Giants and Rams at MetLife Stadium. Time for Above the Numbers. Here's Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
Okay, so let's go above the numbers for the Giants and the Rams coming up on New Year's Eve day. And Sean, who do we have first?
Yeah, let's go to the tight end position. All right, I'm not talking about Darren Waller. I'm talking about Daniel Bellinger. Above the numbers for Daniel Bellinger, it should not be too hard. Look, he's not one of those guys that's got 80 catches on the season. You can see right here, 21 catches, 216 yards, but 10 yards a catch. That's pretty good. So we need Daniel Bellinger to have a productive game for a number of reasons. But number one, when you look at Daniel Bellinger, I think he's done a really good job when he does get opportunities. He catches the ball really well. What we need him to do is do a better job making that first guy miss. You catch the ball, immediately turn upfield with some urgency. Break that arm tackle. Run through somebody. Every tight end in the league is doing that. They're jumping over guys. They're running through guys. They're stiff arming. That's what I want to see from Daniel Bellinger. So you kind of look back at the game against Philly. His very first catch against the Eagles, he was actually blocking. And so one of the things the Giants like to do is they kind of leak him out a little bit late in coverage, and that gives him a lot more space to work with after he catches the ball. His first catch against Philly, he's blocking the defensive end, then releases, and they hit him for a big game. But I think Daniel Bellinger, his role is going to continue to increase as well. And I think when you look at the Rams defense, they've been very susceptible in the passing game. They're giving up a ton of yards to tight ends, and I think this could be a good opportunity for Daniel Bellinger to make an impact in the offense with Tyrod at the helm, getting the starting nod. Tyrod sees the field really well, and he likes hitting his tight end. So this could be a big opportunity for Bellinger.
Okay, I like the pick of Bellinger, but for totally different reasons, Sean. Now, he has caught at least one ball in 7 straight games, and in fact has had a catch of at least 20 yards in 4 of those 7 games. So that's great in the passing game. Yeah. But I want him to step up in the run game. The Giants are not afraid to use the double tight end, but they're only averaging 3 yards a carry in that formation. Now, the thing about it is, he's got to block off the edge. He's got to block down and seal that edge. The Rams, their defense is giving up nearly 6 yards a carry on runs to either sideline. So if Bellinger can help seal that edge, Barkley could make some really big plays on the ground. All right, so I'm going to go to the other side of the ball, and Jason Pinnock is my guy. Now, Pinnock, believe it or not, has only missed 6 snaps all season. I mean, Sean, talk about durability. He's done a really good job. Him and McKinney back there. McKinney, who hasn't missed any. But here's the thing. 4th on the team in tackles with 83, and he leads Giants defensive backs with 7 quarterback pressures and 6 tackles for a loss. Now, why do I bring that up? because he's the DB that Wink Martindale likes to use on the blitz from the back end of the defense. That's why he's been able to make so many of those negative plays.
Yeah, I think for Pinnock, he's been a Swiss Army knife. And to your point, he's in coverage. He's deep safety. He's coming on as the slot corner as well. He's all over the field. And yes, he is their number one blitzer. I think the thing for Pinnock, you mentioned the stats, and he's having a great season. Those stats could be even gaudier. They could be even bigger if he finished a lot of the tackles. There was a time against Philly where he came in unblocked and Jalen Hurts was able to wrangle him free. Those are the plays that Pinnock needs to finish. For Pinnock, he's always seems to have a knack for being around the ball at the right time. He's kind of been our big play guy defensively. Yeah. So I think this will be a great opportunity going up against a guy like Matt Stafford. He's going to give some balls up there. He's going to throw some 50-50 balls. He trusts his receivers. So that ball's coming out. He will have some opportunities to make some big plays.
Okay, Sean, why don't you show me who should be below the numbers for the Giants?
Here's a guy we got to keep bottled up. All right, we got to keep this guy out of the game-wrecking mentality. Yeah. This guy is a load. And 99, this also might be his Madden rating right here, which basically means he's unblockable at times. But Aaron Donald, listen, he's a train wreck. And I think Bobby Johnson calls these guys werewolves. Now, as an interior defensive lineman, one of the challenges that a guy like this presents is it's hard to help guys out. Like, how do you help your guard out in a one-on-one situation? It's really got to be the center's got to help out. You got to find a way to make sure you post for your guard. Don't leave him on an island. Don't give Aaron Donald that two-way go and a lot of space around the guard. So you see the stats right there, the 48 tackles, the 14 tackles for a loss, and the 6 sacks. The sack production is not there. Now, I think that's just kind of a combination of the entire team and how they're all doing. The quarterback hits are still there. 21 quarterback hits on the season. So he's getting there. I call those almost sacks. He's getting there. The ball's coming out, so it counts as a quarterback hit. He is no doubt going to impact the quarterback. But the run game, Paul, is somewhere where he's just as viable to wreck your play. You see those tackles for a loss right there.
Yeah, amongst defensive tackles in the league, the TFLs, that's number 1. As far as the quarterback hits you mentioned before, number 3 amongst defensive tackles. I mean, there's a reason he's gone to 9 Pro Bowls in 9 seasons. This is his 10th in the league.
Yeah, and these sack numbers, that production would probably be a little bit higher if he wasn't getting held so much. He draws a lot of penalties.
Exactly. Hey, final thought. In each of the last 3 games against the Giants, he's had a part of at least 1 sack. The Rams have won all 3 of those games. The first 2 times that Donald opposed the Giants, they held him without a sack, and the Giants won both of those games.
I like it. Key to victory right there. Good job,
it is.
Paulie.
Well, that'll do it this week for Above the Numbers. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, a guy like Jason Pinnock for the Giants, they use him in blitzes. Obviously, they need him to play center field at times with McKinney. So there's a lot of pressure on him to have a forceful game, isn't there?
Well, yeah, the beautiful part about what this defense is doing now is they're not waiting around to see. They're playing very aggressive. So it really becomes about knowing what your assignment is on any given call, because Wink Martindale is very aware that this defense has to stay aggressive.
And the tight end position, Darren Waller played last week. Obviously, Bellinger got involved a little bit. That's a nice safety net for the quarterback, isn't it?
It is, Bob, and when you have a lot of things happening on the outside, threats, you can use your tight end and you can use your running back to keep the offense on schedule as well.
When we come back on the program, 3 things and a final look at the Giants and Rams here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for 3 things. Here's Madeline Burke.
It's week 17 and the Giants are back at MetLife Stadium to host the LA Rams. I'm Madeline Burke with 3 things that you need to know. Bobby Okereke and Xavier McKinney have played 100% of the snaps on defense for the Giants this season. Now, for context, only 3 defensive players in the NFL have played 100% of the snaps for their teams. With just 2 weeks left in the season, Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua needs just 147 receiving yards to record the most receiving yards by a rookie wideout in NFL history. Nacua was selected in the 5th round of the 2023 NFL Draft. And Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback in the NFC to have won a Super Bowl as a starter. The only other active starters to have done so, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Flacco, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers, all play in the AFC. That's a wrap for 3 things you need to know for Week 17. I'm Madeline Burke. Let's send it back to Bob.
Carl, obviously in this game for the Giants, getting off to a fast start is important because the Rams offensively can make a lot of explosive plays. I'm not saying match them shot for shot, but the Giants need to be ball control and complementary football.
Yeah, and the thing about that, Bob, is both sides of the football, they have to be aggressive. They can't, like you said, wait and see and let the game come to them. They've got to take the game to the opponent.
Yeah, and the other thing is, when the Rams got Kieran Williams back and gave them a running game, it creates a lot of balance for them. So the Giants, you could worry about Nakua and Cooper Kupp and Higbee all you want, but if you don't stop the run, it makes the game easy for the Rams.
It does, and Matthew Stafford is one of the best play-action quarterbacks playing in the game today. So you've got to kind of limit what they do in the run game so that they can be more predictable in their pass situations.
And one final thought here, Carl, special teams. Now, Jamie Gillen has had a pretty good season, but last week, early in the game, he really struggled punting the football. Philadelphia gets a 54-yard punt return, which sets up a short field, and then another short punt on a hop, and they started at midfield. You can't do that against this Rams team because they'll make you pay.
No, you cannot, Bob, and that's the thing. When we talk complementary football, that means all three phases of the game. Like, if your defense gets a good stop or your offense gets stalled, help your defense out by pinning them back.
And then that front of the Giants has to get pressure on the quarterback. Stafford is not nearly as mobile as a Jalen Hurts. When you get your chances to get him in the ground, don't let him get away.
Yeah, you got to be good tacklers.
This week's game between the Giants and the Rams is brought to you by Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the New York Giants and the NFL. Make sure after the game you tune to MSG, Giants Postgame Live, for all the postgame reaction for the Giants and Rams. So for Carl Banks, Coach Daboll, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Popham. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Coach Daboll Show presented by Ford, and Happy New Year, everybody.